Okay, everybody. Hi and good morning here from Finland in Europe. Everything is still completely covered with snow here. So we're having one of those unusual, quite cold winters. And there are times, there's a song among Schubert's more than 600 songs. It's called Frühlingssehnsucht. It means longing for spring. And I'm in that particular condition at the moment, I must say. Well, I'd like to welcome you, and we're continuing our Science of Triangles work. Um, Mainly, we're dealing with the planetary, uh, zodiacal, and still higher triangles, and how they produce the ambient energy, which people can tune in with and can use to time their service well and make it appropriate. Maybe it's all part of working with the science of cycles, which is part of that particular power or city that we call all knowledge, found on the third subplane of the atmic plane. Well, of course, it's not all knowledge, but within a certain context, it is. And we really do need the science of cycles for our type of human knowledge at present in its infancy, in order to reach that point. But some of the work with the science of triangles is going to contribute to the absorption of that kind of power, which is climactic, at least for a master. There are other powers, and they are not listed on the maps, on the charts, because they're just too high, and they're even, they belong to the monadic world, or the Chohanic world, we might say. Let's make sure that yeah, okay, well, you probably can hear me, I'm quite sure. But if not, just let me know and I'll do my best. I'd like to welcome you here, Martha and Veronica and Anna and Catherine and Fred and Karen, Carrie and Leslie, Mariana, Miro, Risto and Vicky and Zenaidi and Lynette. And maybe more will come along, but I just when the number of people is reasonable and not like in a full moon presentation, then I just try to say hi to everybody and say that I'm grateful that you're here and we're learning together. I'd just like to have a moment of silence as we work to see the, symbolically anyway, the sun of truth, the great solar orb of truth and clarity hovering over humanity, or should we say from the very center of the Earth's sphere. Because it is so very important that the human consciousness, which is being challenged at the moment by forces, really counter forces, which seek to have it go astray, unhinge it from reality, are active at this time. And so we are committed to finding as much truth in all things as we can. And the idea behind it all, that one person, even one individual thinking truth can affect his entire surroundings. And so a group like ours, smaller or larger, doesn't really make a lot of difference, can have an effect on the consciousness of humanity and make it more sensitive to the subtle worlds and to the still more spiritual worlds than the subtle worlds. You know how the worlds go. The dense physical comes first, and then the subtle worlds, and then the world of meaning, which is the world of the soul, and then the world of significance, which is the world of the spiritual triad. And then we have the beginning of the world of being, which can be accessed from the monadic plane onwards, and in a specialized sense, and in relation to the cosmic physical plane, we have the world of causes, which is found on the logoic level, in the sea of fire, where the great council of Shambhala can be found. In any case, we are working inwardly to help produce the desirable outer effects, which will steady and deepen human consciousness at a time when it really needs steadying and deepening. Okay. And a few more people have joined us, and I just, without going over the list again, I just want to say welcome to you. Now, we've come to that point in our studies. Let's make sure that I have it. Where we're looking at the 7 crises. of the produced by 7 constellations, and of course there are going to be triangles here among these 7. I have to thank Starling David Hunter, for the collection of these various triangles from various sources in the Tibetan books that we are studying. It helps us and gives us a point of orientation. Right before the crisis, the crises of the soul, we have this one of 7 triangles, Aries, Cancer, Capricorn. You will recognize that, and as a 7th ray triangle, I strongly recommend that you commit to memory the list of signs, 3 of which always bring in a particular ray. Now, we have looked over that before, and we'll be looking over it again. This you will recognize as the 7th ray triangle, and I'm trying to see here. It's on page 423. I'm trying to see, do we have anything from it that is more than the list, and therefore might be interesting to deal with. But maybe not. No, I think not exactly. It is a tabulation, and the rulerships of it are here, and I'll show you this again. I'm just taking it in the order in which Starling has presented it. So ceremonial order here, Aries, Cancer, and Capricorn. And basically, this chart is incomplete because there will be a triangle of rulers. Well, sometimes there's only 2. In the case of Aries, we have this sign of strict, willful regimentation on the physical plane. It's a military type of imposition. So it's Martian, but it's also Mercurian in terms of penetrating into the world of ideas, the source of our ideas. And Uranus is not given here, but elsewhere in the book it is. And so, the electric fire, Uranus being the home of electric fire, and that means it has a first ray monad, is also found here with Aries. With Cancer, it's the leftovers. It's the moon, symbolizing the accumulations of the past, and 2 times Neptune. It's not given here. The hierarchical rulers are not given. But okay, Neptune will take us not only into the astral world, but the Buddhic world and the monadic world, and will take us finally into the cosmic astral plane, where it functions as a kind of permanent atom, astral permanent atom of the solar logos. Not the exact permanent atom, but at least kind of a symbol or replica of it, the Tibetan tells us. And then with Capricorn, it's 2 Saturns and Venus. So we see that sometimes there is a triangle that brings through the rays, and these triangles revolve. And we, look when a triangle occurs in our astrological chart, and that means that planets are found in the signs of the triangle, then, we have to pay special attention. And it strikes me that there's a gradation of triangles in our astrological chart. Always the ascendant sun and moon will be important. For some people, the sun, ascendant, and point opposite the sun will be important, but that will be a very advanced condition. And then we look for other triangles as well, and we kind of list them in order of importance. At different time cycles in our lives, one or other of these triangles may be accentuated because of what we call progressions or directions. And then the qualities of those triangles will emerge more strongly in our life. So it's part of the new way of analysis. We don't yet have anything like the full method of astrological analysis for the new methods. But we do have some idea, and I've mentioned it before, that when going into the destiny of the nations, as he analyzes prominent countries like, I don't know, USA, France, Italy, United Kingdom, or what he calls Great Britain, then he gives us an advanced method, which is really inclusive of many, many energies. And so all of us have to become increasingly energy sensitive if we can possibly do that. And that means, to be very quiet and to kind of tune in on the impacts available that even change from day to day with the thought form effect of the moon. So, and then name those energies, and then, increasingly we will be in a position to know what is going on around us, and what we can use, and for what purposes. Always, as much as possible, service purposes, what we can use in relation to the divine plan. Okay, now let's go back to where we were. Yeah, and where we were was here. Okay, so let's look at these crises again. He tells us a little below that 5 of the signs are not so involved with particular human crises, but these are, and they span the entire gamut of human development, all the way. If you'll notice how these 7 are arranged, you can ask, well, what crisis am I going through at the moment? And pretty much all of us are going through the crisis of the battleground one way or another, which is the fifth crisis under Scorpio listed. But, and humanity, a scorpionic kingdom in a way, if you think of it, with our human monads focused in the scorpionic world of Buddhi, where the victory is achieved, humanity is going through constantly this crisis of the battleground. But the whole span is here from the very beginning, which we would call the birth of humanity, and as a result of its emergence from animal man down to the kind of liberation which is listed as the crisis of the burning ground, right down here where I have my marker. And somehow in this process, there's a middle point. And that middle point is what we might call reversal. Now, you know what's so curious about this to me is that, you're turning the other way, and the energies within your system are really beginning to rise instead of always stimulate the lower centers at the expense of the development of the higher centers. So what do we have when we look at this in terms of triangles? Well, we have Cancer, Aries, and Leo. Now, maybe when we look at those three signs, here we have them, Cancer, Aries, reversal, and Leo. And you might wonder, well, why is Aries so close to Cancer? And then all of these other signs, and then we have to wait until we reach Leo. Well, the real weight, and something that I think we all have experienced now, everybody who works in the way we're trying to work here, the real weight is between Cancer and Aries. Millions of years pass before there is the crisis of reversal. Now, I can give you some alternatives for this, and I will in just a moment. But millions of years from the time the first petal is stirring, the first petal of the egoic lotus, and working its way gradually over long periods of time into the fifth petal, whereafter a great crash and burn, if I can refer to it that way, a reversal of the energies can begin to take place. No longer are they egotistically, personally trapped, but they are liberated to rise again. They came from above, but they went right down to the lower centers, and they are liberated to rise and stimulate the higher centers, apparently in the sign Aries. But I'll give you an alternative to that. And then, even though many signs, Capricorn, Scorpio, Virgo, or maybe if I put them in order of initiations, I would say Virgo, Scorpio, Capricorn, Gemini. Virgo first initiation, Scorpio second, Capricorn third, Gemini fourth. Even though there are a lot of signs here, the truth of the matter is it takes much less time. By the time you have reached the great battles of the fifth petal of the egoic lotus, which is a petal I think is ruled by Leo and Scorpio. The majority of your time, the great majority of your time as an evolving human being has passed. And you're left with, I don't know, just a few percentage points of the time you have remaining. So passing through these other signs of crisis can be very fast. Remember that the second, third, and fourth initiations are considered kind of a triangle. The bottom of page 84 and into 85 in Initiation Human and Solar, these three in that triangle, 2, 3, 4, can be taken in the same life or in the next. And when I look at the progress of the great Tibetan initiate, Milarepa, it seems to me that he went from being a second-degree initiate to being a master, virtually, in the same life. Now, that's extraordinary, and he must have had some extremely powerful first ray to force his way through all of that. But finally, we reach Leo. And Leo is, in this case, liberation, meaning the fifth initiation. Notice that Gemini is connected with the fourth initiation. Gemini, the heart, and Gemini, the cosmic Christ, where what it means to be a Christ figure, a kind of savior at the fourth degree, is revealed. So here's our triangle: Cancer, Aries, Leo. Now another way to look at this, and I'm going to change these signs so that we get the idea, and let's see if you think it is so. Okay, I'm trying to just get a little bracket here, My search for the brackets is oftentimes frustrating, but I'll do it that way. And okay, so the you say, huh, oh no, okay, that's not what I want. I want something else. So this is just excuse me while I putter around here, as I should not be doing. Okay, let's see if this will give me what I want. Okay, I'll try. Yeah, okay. So our triangle that spans the entire length of human as human evolution. Remember, the masters are still human, okay? The masters are still human. They're still considered man. The Chohans are not considered man. The Chohans of the sixth and seventh degree. They are no longer men, as are the masters. There's quite a hint there, I think. So the entire span is given through Cancer, Aries, and Leo, the final burning ground, ruled by Uranus, which liberates a man entirely, a human being, into this fifth world of mastership. But what if I were to give you this triangle? And we have, in a way, but what about this triangle? Okay, now think about it. Leo, Libra, Aquarius. What about that one? And I think you'll see a counterpart to this first triangle, which spanned the entire length of human development. You're going to see Leo, the most human of all the signs, he tells us, as the birth of the individuality, which makes a human being, no longer animal man. There is something that comes to the center and which identifies itself about 3 million years after Sagittarius shot the arrows forth, which landed within the substance of animal man. The man comes to himself and says, I am. This is I. And there is a centralization of identity under Leo, which we are going to call practical individualization. Now, it's also obvious that much time has to pass, and we reach the Libra stage, which equally with Aries, both of them ruled by Uranus. Aries is ruled by Uranus hierarchically, and Libra in terms of the esoteric rulership, causing reversal. So, there's a point of balance there that comes after millions of years, and then the scales are tipped towards what? The scales are tipped towards the path of aspiration, the path of discipleship, the path of initiation, all due to a decision made in Libra. And I have to say that he tells us that these various crises, even though they are listed here in relation to certain phases of man's development, occur and recur 3 times along the way. Now, that would be a more complex study, and we're just looking at it in a general sense. So, Aries starts something new, and that something new is going to be a new orientation towards aspiration. Libra also is balancing the old with the possible new. And when the scales tip in favor of the new, we have an entirely new orientation. You may remember that the way the Tibetan listed a certain triangle of crisis was Leo, Libra, Capricorn. Well, Capricorn and Aquarius in this case are kind of equivalent because Capricorn is found in all the 5 first initiations, from the birth of the Christ in the heart all the way up to the 5th initiation. So, in a way, it's inclusive of Aquarius. Now, why, but look, Leo is the adjoining sign to Cancer. And in some systems of astrology, as you're looking for decanates and other measurements, it all starts with Cancer, Leo, right there, and then expands outward. Now, Libra is the opposite of Aries, and I put Aquarius here, and yet the sign of liberation. I put Aquarius here because it's the opposite of Leo. So this particular triangle, Leo, Libra, Aquarius, also takes man from individualization to liberation at the fifth initiation. Now, when does Aquarius get into the act? Well, it cleanses at the second degree, and it gives great radiation, uh, glorification of the head center at the third degree, and it gives total service and sacrifice at the fourth degree. And finally, it is the sign in which the majority of people, end their incarnational cycle, not as world saviors in Pisces in relation to Shambhala, but as world servers in Aquarius, taking the fifth degree in Aquarius, and thus liberated. So I'm just trying to show that if you look for triangles within this group of crises of the human soul, you're going to find some other triangles which are implicated and which should not be discounted. They're behind the scenes, and they do operate. Now, I have a video book out called The Egoic Lotus. You can find it on Makara, and maybe you can find it on YouTube. I can't keep up with where these things are put, but in that I go through the details of these matters, although now and then, when just discussing with you the possibilities, new information or new possibilities do seem to arise. If we're to take it further, looking for triangles within crises, the Tibetan, it's kind of humorous, but the Tibetan says, well, if you're not having a crisis, why are you not having one? It just seems that crisis is the method of growth, and facing crisis and doing it in the right way, which always involves choice, is the way that we most rapidly grow. And maybe that's why DK said, I'll paraphrase kind of because I don't want to go hunting, but in Esoteric Psychology #1, when he's talking about the fourth ray, which is so much humanity's ray, he says it can make for very rapid progress, but also the man may become a, quote, ne'er-do-well, never do well. So with the fourth ray, we have this opportunity for very speedy kind of frictional development. We develop through friction and pain so often, or we just may mess the whole thing up. So when looking here, I'm trying to see what other triangles might be coming in, because I'm not going to get into it today, but if I were to turn to this, these different triangles give us the three cycles the Tibetan is talking about: the great big cycle, a smaller cycle, and the smallest cycle of all, which occurs at the end. And there, has to be a good reason why every one of these signs is involved with the big cycle, the cycle within the big cycle, and the cycle within the intermediate cycle. Now, where are all of we, all of us? We are in the third cycle. If you have taken the first initiation, the birth of the Christ in the heart, and if you are trying to beautify your life, and if you're disciplining yourself and you have a deep interest in the spiritual matters, whether it happens to be occultism, okay, or something else, it is a sign, says the Tibetan, that you have taken the first initiation. And that initiation definitely puts you in the third cycle. It's almost like, if I were to just kind of think of it off the top of my head, the whole cycle takes us from animal ignorance to mastership. The second cycle takes us from human ambition into, the desire to rise, into a state of personal integration, where we are effective people in the world, but not necessarily spiritual. Or, we're still looking out for number one, and number one is the personality or the ego. The third cycle takes us from the stage of aspiration to the stage of mastership. And basically, if maybe I can show you this again, some of these maps are just, excellent. This blue circle is the circle of hierarchy, and basically, if you're an aspirant or a probationer, right down here, you're in that circle. So all the way to mastership, which is the end of the strictly human development, the third cycle is effective. And I think we can all agree pretty much that, you and I, and we're in that third cycle. And our job is to somehow become such astute spiritual occultists, managing the available energies, that together, with group progress, we can elevate ourselves, stand at the periphery of the master's ashram, and even in times in the future, because that's the way it will be, enter the ashram together. And that will be the words will ring forth, as we find in the rays and the initiations, accepted as a group. Now, a lot of people, they kind of want to go through the door of initiation themselves, and in a way, they do, except that unless there is group consciousness, there is no real initiation. So this fiat that goes forth when the group is ready, please turn off your mic, accepted as a group is the key phrase. I'll give you a chance, anybody who wants to talk here about any of these triangles. So let's look. I'm kind of doing this a little bit off the top of my head, and I'm trying to see what other triangles might be here. Now, one triangle I notice is Scorpio, Capricorn, Gemini. Or I don't know what order. Yeah, that's the order I would put it in. Scorpio, Capricorn, and then we'd have to keep going around until we reach Gemini. Now, why would I do that? And I've just given the hint on that regarding initiation, human and solar. The great majority of students who were accepted by the Tibetan as accepted disciples and standing, therefore, at least on the periphery of his ashram, were initiates of the first degree, tending rapidly towards, whether in that particular life or the next, or maybe the next, toward the second degree. So the second degree was the target. And remember about the second degree, we should not say, oh, well, that's only the second degree. Because what the Tibetan said to a man who thought he was undergoing the fourth degree, he says, well, no, you're not. But you could achieve the second degree in this life. And these are the words that are important. Therefore, we rate you highly. Therefore, we rate you highly. And if you think about the life of Jesus, the great majority of that life was spent between the birth and the baptism, which is the second degree. So 30 years between the birth and the baptism, and therefore the second degree is quite a climb. So, so many of us are heading into that second degree where we have defeated a lot of the glamours that will be assailing us between the birth and the baptism, okay? And we are ready to enter the stream, as it's called technically, in relation to the ashram, which means to be borne along by the current of energy, like a river, which leads to the ashram. So there we are, Scorpio, ruling the second degree. Now, it doesn't only rule the second degree. DK says, its peculiar testing quality is found at the first, second, and third degrees. So you get physically tested, emotionally tested, then you even get mentally tested. Pride, separativeness, and cruelty. It's a bit like the three temptations in the desert, which the Christ, on a much higher level of response, had to deal with, as a great lesson to all human beings. So this triangle, then Scorpio takes us to Capricorn. Now, Capricorn is not limited to the third degree. It is in relation to the first 5 degrees even. And there are ways to consider its connection through all of the 5. From the birth, at conventionally at Christmas time, the birth of Jesus in Capricorn with Virgo rising. I do believe the horoscope that shows Virgo rising is the best. That's what I find anyway. And the Danish astrologer Holger Stansbjerg, he has created that horoscope, and maybe others have too, but it's a good one. Okay, so the birth is right there. And then every subsequent initiation, the one who crosses the water, second degree, the one who stands on the mountaintop, third degree, the conqueror over death, fourth degree, and the great liberation in Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces at the fifth degree. So Capricorn will have something to do with being elevated within the kingdom of humanity as high as you can go. And you become, of course, the unicorn, from the time of the third degree, the unicorn. So anyway, we go from Scorpio to Capricorn. And in this particular case, you might think, well, Capricorn is a very restricting sign. It has to do with laws, and you can't cross this boundary or that. You have to stay within the law, and it's very concrete. But there's more to it, because Capricorn also represents the gate into life of those who know no death, a huge expansion from on top of the mountain when you see panoramically all things. And let us remember what the Tibetan said about the initiate in Capricorn. He stands on the mountaintop. It's a symbol, of course, in consciousness. And he looks up and he sees the great passage of all the energies in the sky. And he is astonished. He is astounded. He has opened his consciousness expansively into an awareness of these many, many energies. Okay. And then the next part of that triangle will be Gemini. Gemini, the head of the cosmic Christ. Gemini, the great second ray sign. Gemini representing the pairs of opposites in quite a number of ways, including the opposite of spirit and matter, or shall we say, the monad and the soul-infused personality. Gemini representing the great second ray pouring through the heart's center when the crucifixion has arrived. So Gemini is associated with this crucifixion or renunciation, giving up the lower of the pairs of opposites for the higher, and establishing yourself in a great love, wisdom initiation. It is ruled by the fourth ray, yes, that is the crucifixion. And, you think of, the being pulled this way and that way, but it is leading to a far greater appreciation of the love of God. So maybe, people like you and me, and we're all, studying here and trying to get into it deeply, we're going to be entering this Scorpio, Capricorn, Gemini triangle. Now, how fast we go through it? Well, sometimes when I read the Tibetan in Initiation, Human and Solar, I say, well, that's the ideal. It's certainly not going to be for everybody. And yet he says, and probably will. So he gives the probability on the side of rapid progress through this triangle, kind of like a bottleneck, wide below, narrow in the middle, and then opening up hugely beyond that. Maybe there's one more, well, there's, a lot of triangles here that one can look at, but I would say the triangle Capricorn, Gemini, and Leo should be pronounced, because there is a period when the monad, the sense of pure being, the awareness of pure underlyingness or understandingness in the literal sense, comes into the consciousness. Capricorn, third initiation, Gemini, fourth initiation, and Leo, the fifth initiation. Now, we can make other triangles operative there, such as Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, and they will also signify a movement from the third initiation through the fourth, where the monad really has a direct line, and into the fifth initiation, where we begin to envision the way of higher evolution. So what's this all about? You know, we look at these crises we pass through. You know, we've been nurturing the Christ consciousness in the darkness for a long time under Virgo. It gets born in Capricorn. It battles with the old tendencies in Scorpio. It gets glorified in Capricorn again. And then it goes on to have a direct connection with universality. Now, do we realize that the fourth initiation is opening the door to that monadic apprehension of universality? And thus Aquarius is a very suitable sign. And the other sign, Gemini, too, I serve the one. And finally, you know, we move on to the Leo Aquarius phase, where we stand as the master at the very head of the five-pointed star, consummating what is the strictly human arc of development. So you can look at all these, and there are various triangles that emerge as you pass through the phase that starts with the possibility of initiation. So what are the starting points in all this? Individualization is one, ambition is another, and spiritual aspiration is another. These three are starting points for three cycles that occur from the very most expansive up to the end, which is final and rapid, very rapid by comparison. Okay, so that'll be enough to consider for today. You know, I'm so grateful to Starling for having assembled these, because, you know, it helps us have a basis and a starting point from which to discuss the dynamics of various triangles. And then, of course, never forget, finally, you know, page 170 of Cosmic Fire, right around there, you're looking at the triangles in your etheric body first. What is going on there? And what triangle are you really working on in this particular incarnation? And just to refresh your memory, I will go there, because, and I'm not going to talk about it, but I'm just going to go there, and you'll see what I mean. Okay, so that's a treatise on cosmic fire, and it's page 170, 169, 170, and there we go. Which of these are you working on? Because if you know, and let me make sure that I can, yeah, there we go. Well, I seem to have highlighted this one that man is partially controlled by the ego. He is the advanced man. But maybe, and I would think probably, quite a number of us, maybe all of us, have entered this phase where we call it spiritual man to the third initiation, the heart, love, the throat, intelligence, and the 7 master control centers in the head. I'm not going to put us in number 6, not yet, because we're not there yet. But, these two kind of tell us what we're working on, and, whatever triangles we study, finally coming down to the etheric body and to its very practical effect upon our life on the physical plane, this is what we would look at. Okay. Now, here we are. And I'm just going to say that this, whenever we start again, it's a couple of times a month, and this is the end of program, and I don't know which one. That's my problem, I'm afraid. End of program, and this is the 10th of March. The Ides of March are coming, and here we have the beginning of program X, and let's see, when will that be? If somebody can look that up for me on the master schedule, if you have it. Maybe I can very quickly find it, possibly. Let's see here. There is a master schedule after all. And here we go. Schedule, master schedule. Okay. And usually we don't have to change this one, but sometimes we do. And here's March. And I'll make sure that you see that. And our next signs of triangles, will be on the 17th p.m. Okay, on the 17th at 6 p.m. So that's good. And I can put that in program X. I don't know which one this is. And the 17th of March, 6 p.m. GMT. All right, that tells us when we'll meet again on this subject. Okay, friends, now I know there's a lot to correlate, and I'm just interested in your impressions. And, you're welcome now to speak or to write something in the chat. And then we'll be able to handle such thoughts as you may have about what have we dealt with? Crisis, why certain signs are involved in certain crises, triangles which arise from the crises of the soul, indicating the different phases of the crises of the soul, what you think you may be passing through at this time, and why, what is the evidence, that kind of thing. So is there anybody that would like to say something or write something? I think I'm on my own here. So I'll have to, do my best to, do my best to field your questions. And here's something from Sri Yantra. Is there a correlation? between the triangles and the three fires, fire by friction, solar fire, and electric fire. Very, very definitely there is. You know, there's always a 1, 2, 3, which is fundamental. The 3 and 1, the 1 and 3. And whenever you have a triangle, it's based on the number 3, and it's based on those 3 aspects of divinity. It's also based on the ray of the monad. So let's just say that in the early phases of human evolution, the triangles we develop are largely under the third aspect, and they are supporting, you know, we're likely to see in a triangle that the point in the triangle representing the third aspect of divinity, or fire by friction, is likely to be on top and operative for many, many years. Then when that great cycle passes, the triangle revolves. We don't know how exactly, but anyway, it's called triangles in revolution. And the next topmost point in the triangle, or directing point, will be what we call solar fire. It will tend not towards the development of the personality, but towards the development of the soul. And then only at the end, and for the briefest period, the triangle will have, for its most powerful point, or topmost point, electric, that particular aspect of the triangle which represents electric fire. And you know, then the person is really in the phase of moving beyond the third initiation into the higher realms, where the monad, which does represent electric fire, can be found as the most powerful and influential point. So the answer is yes, from my perspective. I can always, you know, have to say, from my perspective, I try not to dogmatize about anything, because one can always be surprised with new information and discover that what he or she thought from the past was incomplete or even erroneous. So, yeah, and you know what's interesting too, the way these points in the triangles develop. Now, I'm not going to get into it completely, because I don't know how, really, but third ray monads, second ray monads, and first ray monads, considering the 3 major types of monadic rays, develop triangularly in a different way. Like everybody has a tendency to develop the fire by friction point, the personal point, first, and especially third ray monads. And they tend, I think, to have difficulty developing the other 2 aspects. Maybe the well, maybe I'll get to that. The second ray monads have a much more rapid development of the solar fire point, but they too tend to develop, of course, knowledge first, fire by friction first, but the solar fire point in the triangle is keeping up and almost equivalent to the development of the fire by friction point, the third ray point. Now, if you're a first ray monad, they are rare, 5 billion out of 60 billion, whatever that 60 billion figure refers to, whether on our planet or in our solar system, there's a little confusion there or blinding going on. The first ray type develops the electric fire point more rapidly than the others do. And because it's on the same ray line as ray 3, or maybe for that reason, it can develop the knowledge aspect reasonably rapidly, but the love aspect is the last to be developed. The solar fire aspect, they're going to have trouble developing that. And they are in retardation when it comes to developing the love aspect. And then I'm trying to think, what is retarded when you develop the third aspect of divinity. And it's either will or love. I think it may be will, because it's so easy for the third ray type to defer to the personality and work around the law which comes through the electric fire aspect. So what is this all about? Your monadic ray. And by that, I don't mean your monadic subray on the monadic plane. I mean one of the principal monadic rays on the logoic plane will determine triangle dynamics within your etheric body and within the etheric part of your astral and mental body and so on. So the monad controls ultimately everything, and the cycles and the emphasis that occur below. But generally speaking, when looking at any triangle, there's a 1, 2, 3. There's an electric fire, solar fire, fire by friction. And I would say, as a general rule, and I think you'll probably agree with me on this, that we are in phase 2. We are, the majority of us, maybe all of us, developing the soul point, the solar fire point in our various triangles. And that development, even though the monadic point begins to become active after the third degree, the continuation of the soul point through the spiritual triad, in my view, lasts until the fifth initiation. We just keep on developing that particular ray. Only now we are solar fire and we don't have to depend upon the solar angel after the fourth initiation. So, that's a little bit of an amplification on your question. There's always a 1, 2, 3. And it's good to know where we stand with this type of development. I don't think any of us is going to claim that we are completely soul infused. I doubt it. That would mean minimally complete soul infusion would mean the fourth degree. We're not going to claim that, and we should not. Okay. Is electric fire the same as Fohat? Well, Fohat is the Fohat has a triple expression. It has an electric fire expression. It has an eros expression. It has a manifestational expression. It has all those three. But what is Fohat in a technical sense, which is still practical in terms of where we live in cosmos? It's the personality nature of the solar logos. It's it's Brahma. It's the energy that is found on the lower 18 cosmic subplanes. So it for our purposes, this cosmic electricity is the energy of the lowest aspect of the solar logos. And yet every threesome is developed into a ninesome. In other words, 3 becomes 9. So every point in the triplicity has 3 aspects to it as well. And Fohat has this dynamic electric fire aspect. It has love called Eros, magnetism, for the second ray, and it has manifestational capacity on the third ray. All right, let's take a look further. And Carrie, if it is possible to etherically locate the position of the 7 head centers, I think it is possible. I haven't really studied it. My sense of location is not the greatest, but you can study it, and it has something to do with the ventricles or certain spaces, certain areas within the brain. Now, they may as well be, these centers are located not only they're located in relation to the brain, but they are etheric. And there are 3 sets of centers. And, I'm not an expert on that by any means, but the normal centers in the body. Then there's the centers related to the head and its ventricles. And then there's some kind of ajna system, which, like the Tibetans' feathered hats, you see them wear this. It is like a brush. I don't know what it's made out of. It just goes from the front to the back. That is a symbol for tracing yet another series of chakras. And when it comes to the 7 head centers, there may be 7 of these, and they're found in some of the Hindu books. And I think I've shown a picture of that, but I'm going to show it again. And then there's the ones that have to do actually with locations in the brain. And then there's the ones that are found more or less in the torso, and the rest of the body. So, can we locate those? Maybe we can if some good 5th ray type wants to come along and pinpoint this. But you're asking, is it possible to locate the position of the 7 head centers, since we already know the location of the first 3? Well, you see, that's the question. Are the 3 that we're talking about, head center, ajna center, and alta major center, 2 of them may not at all be part of the 7. Now, why do I say that? Because switching back here, to this, notice what spiritual man has to deal with. The heart, the 7 head centers, and notice that the 2 many-petaled lotuses are not included in the 7. So I think they're more part of the Ajna series of centers. And let me, again, the system is different. It's quite a Hindu system, but let me see if I can find, and yes, I would say, before I turn away from this, that there is a direct one-to-one relationship with the 7 centers within the head and the 7 stars of the Great Bear. And I also want to say that there's a kind of a triangle which goes like this: 7 stars of the Great Bear, the planet Vulcan in terms of its will, and then these 7 head centers. I think they are all interrelated. So what's going on inside the head etherically is Vulcanian in its imposition on other lesser centers in the body. Because he sometimes talks about, well, of these 7 in the head, there's a higher correspondence to the heart center. There's a higher correspondence to the throat center. We're going to have to see how we name the lower chakras to which there is a higher correspondence among the 7. Now, in this map that Tuya has, I'm going to, try to deal with it here. Let's see if I can get there. No, it's a different. It's not the one that Tuya has. It's a different one. And let's see if I can get to it. Yeah, it's going to be this one. And share. There it is. Okay, now I'm going to try to. This is, I really wish I remembered the name of the book. This is a book so good that one of our students some time ago kind of lifted it from our premises, and I don't seem to have it anymore. You got to be careful about those. What is the name of the term when you covetousness? When you covet knowledge and you're willing to steal for it. It can be a problem, and it's in the Yoga Sutras, that if we develop a covetousness towards knowledge, we are immediately going against the commandments, But anyway, this is the Ajna series of chakras, and they are not, as far as I know, temporarily, they're not in the head. They are not, etherically within the head. They are that which is represented by the Tibetan's feathered hat. And they rise from here and go to the top of the head and maybe backwards, but they are above the head. And they have Hindu names, of course. We start with the center we are familiar with, which is the Ajna Center. I haven't really deciphered all of this, If we know the Sanskrit, we'll be able to get a lot more out of it because the Sanskrit language is keyed, to many of these energy centers. But we progress and we have a monastic center, the Manas chakra, the seat of Chitta, the second Nada. Then we have Indu, which has a Buddhic connection. I haven't counted here the number of petals. It looks like there's 6 in the monastic center, which is interesting. And if somebody wants to count the petals, they can. But that's the Indu chakra, seat of Buddhi. And then we have a chakra, which is represented in a strange kind of way, almost like an anchor or an arrow. And it's called Maha Nada. Maybe it has something to do with sound, the great sound. Nada there's some kind of nada yoga that has to do with the sound current. And then we continue and we have the Nirvana chakra. Again, I have not counted this, but remember that the atmic plane is called the nirvanic plane. So this might have something to do with the state of nirvana. Of course, nirvana is a term that can be applied in many different strata. But okay, this nirvana chakra may be atmic, and then there's a couple of little chakras called Visarga, and then there's a guru chakra on the way, and I don't even know what it may mean. Maybe it has something to do with the monadic plane itself. And now we come to the final chakra in that series, the Sahasrara chakra, which is basically the great head center on top of the head. I don't know what we're going to do with the feathered hat and the rest of it, but on the way up, these are the chakras that are apparently given. And in the midst of it all, Mahan, which seems to be like the very center of the 1,000-petaled lotus. And what the Tibetan has said about that center, it is the 12-petaled lotus of the heart within the head. So, I can probably send this out to people so you can have a copy of it, and you can refer to it when dealing with this mystery, which DK refused to elaborate when Roberto Assagioli asked him about the head center. He says it's very esoteric, and basically he was saying it's a cult, and it's not meant for sort of public discussion in a book, So there are a lot of mysteries regarding the head centers and their location, and there are 3 categories. That's all I can say. I'm not an expert in this, but I would like to, go deeper into it. I'm sure we all would. Now, let's keep going. Yeah, is it possible to have this chart? Yes, I'm going to do what I can to get it together. And thanks, Catherine. 16 petals for the Indu. Now that's interesting. 9, I'm trying to see what the 16 can correlate. And 12 petals for the Guru. Well, again, does does somehow the Guru chakra represent the heart within the head, or what about this Mahan? Now, if there's 12 petals, you say, do you counted them, right? 1, 2, 3. Wait a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, okay, that's right. So whenever you have a 12, you know there's some kind of heart phenomenon that is going on. And DK seems to think that the central heart within the head is the main part of the higher head center. Now, you know, when we are working with the deity yoga, which is something the Dalai Lama does a lot with, 2 years working with that, particularly with the 108 names of Lakshmi, we are trying to develop the Lakshmi meaning Venus. We're trying to develop the qualities that are found in all of these different petals. But on page 660, I think, now, I think it's Dinah 2. And, you know, Jeff Logie, he often refers to this. It's the 12 qualities of the heart's center. But, you know, we could take them higher, and we could say the 12 qualities, still more intense, of the heart center within the head, which seems to be the very central lotus. And because it is a heart center, it tells us a lot about the kind of solar system we're living in and the effect of the second ray solar logos and the effect of our second ray soul planetary logos upon our own structure. The heart is the main thing. Okay, and so here's Sri Yantra saying, yes, that Babaji, yeah, it's amazing about that being, you know, when you read the Yoga Sutras. So that's in the Kriya Yoga. I haven't gone too far with that, but I have read about him. And as I say, this is information from the Southern Indian school. Now, that Southern Indian school teaches those who are found in the second and third subraces of the fifth root race. The Trans-Himalayan school that the Tibetan is usually talking about teaches the first subrace, the fourth, and the fifth. And something new is coming, I think, for the sixth sub-race. But, you know, he's pretty strict. And if you've read the work on Letters on Occult Meditation about the new schools, starting on page right around 299, and, you know, going for another 40 pages or so, you'll see that he says in no uncertain terms that for the Western student, the Trans-Himalayan branch of the one fundamental school of occultism is the branch to which they must adhere. Still, I think it does not hurt, and it can help to know what the other schools are producing in terms of their knowledge. And obviously, someone like the Tibetan knows this very well. One of the peculiar things is I wonder why, when we're talking about the Southern Indian school, that the first subrace, which is the Hindu subrace, is not taught by that school, but it isn't. Somehow, the Trans-Himalayan school, maybe the Buddha started all that, and it moved to Tibet, is what is teaching the first sub-race. Of course, when it comes to India, we have kind of two different ethnic groups. Now, I'm not talking about Muslim and Hindu. I'm talking about the native people that lived in India before, and they're one group, before the great invasion from the north with the people who were writing the Vedas and were, a dominating group. That's the second group. And maybe it's because of the influence of that invasion. I can't say, when it took place historically. I don't know that, but it was over a long period of time, that because of that invasion of this a different group to the north of India, coming down into India, that it is now that the Indian subrace, the Hindu subrace as we call it, adheres to the Trans-Himalayan school, which really is what the Buddha developed and which moved into Tibet for its flourishing. Anyway, I'll try to provide for you this, or if somebody else has it. I've even forgotten the name of the book. And like I say, nobody gains anything by stealing books. But okay, I can find it somehow and get it to you. Okay. Is there anything else, anything that anyone would like to say or to write before we call it a day here, or call it a morning here, and probably a night for quite a few of you? Let's see. It's an endless possibility of development when it comes to reading the Tibetans' work, and then when you combine that with the secret doctrine, which is basically the third ray history of our planet. Madame Blavatsky had a lot of that. We can't be sure of her monadic ray. We're pretty sure she's a first ray soul, but she had a tremendous historical ability. Now, the Tibetan too has that historical ability, and there are many reasons why I think that one of his monadic rays is the third ray, just the incredible diversity of his teaching, and also the fact that he gave Blavatsky so much of that information that she needed to lay out the historical perspective of the Earth and of our solar system. So if there's nothing further, look, friends, frankly, think of it. The Tibetan, excuse me, I'm very sorry. I have to take this call. Yoni, I'm on a broadcast right now. Can you, are you here yet? Okay. Tuya was expecting you earlier, but I'm on a broadcast. I'll let her know as soon as I can. Okay? We'll see you soon. Bye-bye. I'm sorry for that interruption, but there's so much going on in the house today, And Tuya is heading for the north to the Little Bear Meditation Center, and we have 3 days of work to do in one day. So, I just had to take it. Anyway, I'm not sure where I was. Yes, I was on the necessity to study occultism over centuries. Now, DK was interesting in many ways, but he would tell people for how long they had been accepted disciples, some of them. For the last 5 lives, you have been an accepted disciple on such and such a ray. Thank goodness for you. Huh, or this is your first life as an accepted disciple, and so forth. If you get into this kind of material, you have to expect centuries of study, centuries of ever-deepening meditation, centuries of application in service. Now, who's to say? Is this a new thing for us? Are we carrying it over from the past? Our memory fails, of course. We don't know, but as we progress further, we will get the sense of where we stand on this path of discipleship. Now, right now, I'm working on a video commentary on the 6 stages of discipleship, and you can already find the written commentary on that. But the stage of accepted discipleship is like real discipleship, I might say. You've arrived after accepting, and then after making your pledge, and now you are accepted. Okay. Now we're all aiming for that, or it's an objective for many of us, and it means closer cooperation with the master. Now, if it turns out that you accept Master DK as kind of your training master, wherever your home ashram may be, then okay, you have a lot of study in front of you, and so do I. So let's just close with the great invocation, and I'll get to my 3 days in one work in the rest of the house. Okay, let me get this up for us. And here we are. We'll start. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Thank you, everyone. And tonight at 6 p.m. GMT, tonight here in Europe anyway, we'll deal with triangles in the normal meditative manner. I'll be handling that too. You will be traveling, and for a few times now, I'll be substituting for the programs that she is usually doing. And then when she gets settled, then she'll be right back with us. So thank you so much for being with us. And if you want to join the regular triangles meditation, you know when it is, and it's going to be a broadcast, not a Zoom webinar like this. It's going to be, a broadcast. So thank you, everyone. And that's our usual live YouTube channel. You have the link for it, and Anne and Tuya have provided you with the weekly calendar, so you can just press the button and it usually works. Otherwise, the links are below and you can try those. So many blessings, lots of love to everyone, and let us think the great teaching into manifestation right down here on the physical plane. Okay? We'll see you soon. Okay, bye-bye now.